I don't know about you, but I was raised to honor and respect older people, elderly people, and the idea that I live in a country where older people in their 70s and 80s who have worked their entire life and are still working part-time and even full-time can't afford to pay rent and are forced to live in vehicles because of that. Now, if you choose to live in a vehicle full-time, that's your option, and I think it's a great option if you do it by choice. But when you do it because you don't have a choice, that's when it's a problem. And that seems to be the case with more and more these days, particularly seniors and particularly older women. And today's video is going to be focusing on the working poor. So come on and join me as we talk to Lindy and she shares her story. Well, hello, Lindy.
Hi, Carol.
Thank you so much for doing this interview. And you are living full-time in your van. And what kind of van is this?
This is a 2013 Chevy Express.
Okay. And you said you had moved in here in order to save money, correct?
Save money and have a last adventure.
Okay, so you wanted to have an adventure, but you're also finding that you were telling me that the rents are just astronomical.
They just keep going up. Mine wasn't as bad as many people's. Mine was not as bad, but on Social Security, you're left with very little for food or gas or anything else.
From the research that I've done, as an older woman, you're at greatly increased odds of living in poverty and even working living in poverty. Now, do you want to explain about food stamps and why you don't qualify for food stamps?
Well, at the time that I applied for them, which was a few years back, they said I made $8 a month too much for food stamps.
Wow.
And I just, it's kind of shocking that you're making $8 a month too much and you can't get any food stamps. But there are churches that have their own vegetable gardens and things like that. And every Friday there's certain churches that will give you a bag of food, vegetables and fruits.
So you have to go from place to place gathering up the food.
If you want, yes.
And then you have to use gas to do that.
That's right.
So you're consuming one expensive product to get something else.
That's right.
So sometimes it sounds like it's a choice. Go with the spending the gas and using the gas to get the food, or don't use the gas and don't get the food.
That's right.
So these are some of the hard choices that you have to make.
Yes.
What are some of the other hard choices that you have to make?
Well, I mean, I decided that I didn't want to make that about food, so I stockpile food.
Okay.
I'm a hoarder. I have at least 6 months worth of food in my van right now.
Okay.
You know, I carry like 40 pounds of rice, 20, 30 pounds of beans.
So when you have extra money or when it's on sale, you
I
buy
it. Yeah,
Okay.
I buy as much as I can afford, and I just stockpile it.
Okay.
And so that is one concern I don't worry about anymore.
Okay.
So I don't have to use gas for that. I mean, there's things you do and you choose to do so that you get rid of those concerns.
Now, one of the things you were telling me is that where you're at, it doesn't snow a lot or snow at all.
It doesn't snow at all.
But it gets cold.
It can get cold, yes.
So you're using this butane stove for heat sometimes?
Sometimes, because the Mr. Buddy is so expensive.
The
propane, you know, and a Mr. Buddy is a nice heater, but you only get 4 hours out of one can, and one can is $4.50. And if it's cold for a week, you're going through a lot of money.
Right.
I can spend $300 and $400 a month for butane. Propane. The butane is a lot cheaper, but it's still expensive.
But on Social Security, $300 or $400 a month is prohibitive.
That's right. That's right.
You know?
If all I had was Social Security, I couldn't do it.
So basically, you're in a situation, in order to survive, you have to work.
That's right.
So whether you're living in a van or in an apartment, you would still have to work.
Yeah.
And you're how old again?
75.
So at 75, if you didn't work, you wouldn't survive.
I wouldn't.
Wow.
I mean, I have a son that would probably help me, but that's not, I'm too independent for that.
Another dilemma you were telling me about, I mean, it just seems like the system is set up to make it difficult for older people
Yes.
who are on fixed income living in poverty. Because you were saying that when you applied for housing, they reduced housing, they told you, what did they tell you?
They told me that because I was working, I would have to pay a higher percentage. And I said, well, what if I quit work? And they go, well, it's illegal for you to quit work just so you can get low-income housing.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to not be working for at least 6 months to get into low-income housing. And then you would get a lower percentage. So while I'm working, my rent would be about 50 to 60% more than if I'm just on Social Security.
But then you have to stop working for 6 months and you wouldn't be able to survive.
Right. And if I go on low-income housing now, they will not lower the rent for me when I get off, quit working. They will not lower it.
So
you have to go back out of the housing system and re-sign up to wait for another housing.
oh my gosh.
Yes.
This is unbelievable.
Yes.
Absolutely unbelievable.
So I've been through it twice, and each time, and they've said, the last lady said to me, you are so much better off in that van.
What?
That's what a state employee told me. Yes.
That you're better off in the van.
Yes.
Heat up with the butane stove, and you have the Mr. Buddy, but that's so expensive. So what are some other ways? Because I know you said you have solar.
I have solar, and I thought that would work. I've discovered how unreliable solar is. If you have rain or fog, everything costs money. I mean, I have 500 watts of solar. Well, if I want to charge it by the battery, or through the car, what other people do, there's more money.
Mm-hmm.
If I want,
because you're using gas.
and you're using gas, and then if I want to heat, and I want to buy a bigger propane so that it's cheaper, there's more money.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going to put propane? Got to put it outside. There's more money. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
Okay.
You have to be a real minimalist to live in this. And
Right.
how do you do it when it's 140 inside the van on one day?
Yeah, I met with you during the summer, and oh my gosh.
140. And when I came out here, it was 128, and I showed the temperature.
Right.
And that was at 1 o'clock, and we hadn't reached the peak yet.
Right. Because by 3 o'clock is
It
when
was around
yeah.
140 inside the van.
Right. And you didn't have air conditioning.
No. So you really have to, I mean, this kind of lifestyle, you're in the elements. You're actually in the elements,
Mm-hmm.
whether you realize it or not. How do you deal with each one of those? And what's the cost of it? And I've been doing it a year and a half, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Those of you who would like to follow more about Lindy's journey and her experience in her van, you have a YouTube channel, right?
Right.
And the name of it is what?
Lava.
And what does that stand for?
It's Lindy's Awesome Van Adventure.
So it's Lava and then Lindy's.
Awesome Van Adventure.
So Globies, go on over and show Lindy some love. She's trying to get monetized and get her channel really going. And she's going to be sharing more and more about what it's like to live in a van below the poverty line while you're working as a senior. And we're going to be doing a tour shortly, probably in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. So go over. Meanwhile, support Lindy. And thank you so much, Lindy, for sharing some of very personal things.
Thanks, Carol.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.